Well, welcome now to the final episode of this season's Basketball Champions League podcast, the BCL Trash Talk podcast. This week, we have a very, very special guest. Back in Greece, I've been hearing a lot of nicknames. The one occurring nickname I keep hearing for Keith Langford is the Myth. I mean, I've seen you play for 2 years. Keith, welcome to the BCL Trash Talk podcast, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is it's a very exciting moment in the season. So glad to be, heading up the last podcast, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm sure the guys have a lot of questions for you. I think Igor's going to start it off. So Igor, take the room, my guy.
Keith, obviously you played in the Final 8 in Athens in 2020.
Right.
You lost the title game there. What were your memories about the event itself and about the final?
Yeah, it was a little bit bittersweet, because obviously everybody was excited to be playing again after COVID, but at the same time, to be in Athens and not have the Ike fans, and it was a little bit of a letdown. So it was weird because I think it was the first time that to play such a major, championship or final like that. So, we definitely could have used the fans at that point, but I think it was more of an advantage for the opposing teams, well, all the visiting teams, quote unquote. But at the same time, BCL did a great job, putting on the event. I mean, they turned Oaxaca into a really nice space, and so it was great to see how well they did the event up, but at the same time, it was a little bit of a letdown to play without fans.
So, Keith, I got two questions for you. First one, as a player, this is the night before SemiFinals. So as a player, what are you doing with your, are you trying to relax as much as possible, or are you trying to keep things as normal? Is there anything different that you're trying to do to prepare yourself for a huge game the next day?
Well, I used to be very, superstitious about those types of things. Had to use the Normatec, use the game ready, do it in this precise order, and try to sleep and do all of these things. But eventually, I got to a point where I just started listening to my body and just kind of whatever my body needed at the time, whatever my mind needed at the time to relax or to be in a comfortable space. I kind of just flow with that. So if I need extra sleep, I go to bed a little early. If I feel good, I'll stay up. If I need a book or a podcast, I kind of just let that energy guide me. So there's nothing particular that I do now, but I understand the importance of routine for sure.
You've been around for a long time, and it seems that international players are prolonging their European careers, even at this Final Four, like Jorman Polas Bartolo, he's 35, Marcelinho is 38, and even Tremel Darden is 40. He's playing this Final Four as a 40-year-old. How do you explain it? I mean, what changed over the last couple of years so we have a lot of international players staying for a longer time in Europe?
Good question. Actually, it's funny. Marcelino, I don't even consider Marcelino an international player because a lot of people don't know this, but we played against each other in high school. And when I was in Texas, he played at Capel High School and I was at North Crowley High School. And the funny thing, when we first played against each other in Bologna, I was in Virtus, he was in Fortitudo. And I saw him and I was like, hey, that's the guy from, and I just thought it was, a guy that was, from the Dallas-Fort Worth area that was playing overseas now. And little did I know, obviously, it's Brazilian and everything like that. But, I mean, just a little side story about Marcelino. But I think it's really two things to answer your question. The first thing I think is that nowadays in sports, there's a lot more focus and technology on longevity in careers. I mean, when I first came to Europe, there was no Normatec or Game Ready or Hypervolt and, all of these things, like the focus on the care of your body, getting massages and having physio treatment. Like, it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And I think in the last 5 years that that market, that area is taking on a big boom. And so you see a lot more athletes playing late into their 30s. And like you said, even with Trammell playing at 40. And then the second part of that, I think that European basketball has made somewhat of an adjustment. When I first came to Europe, it was you for sure you're going to have 2 practices every day, 2 plus 2.5 hours taped. And there was no getting around that. Like it was just, that was the thing. Coming overseas, you knew, that you were going to have to practice twice a day. And, so, and I think that a lot of coaches, between guys getting opportunities in America, going to summer leagues, and, the game has just become such an international thing that, I wouldn't say it's completely adapted. Europe hasn't completely adapted, but I definitely noticed the changes from when I first arrived in '06.
You actually put out a tweet responding to one of the BCL channels talking about there's a lot of young guys, American young guys, kind of new faces almost that are starting to build up that kind of relationship for themselves, that kind of name for themselves. Who's impressed you?
Well, shoot, what can I say? First off, I want to say like last season, they played their way into the BCL, but the guys from Lavrio last season, man, though that influx of American talent, for those guys to get Lavrio into the BCL for the way they played last year, I really love the way that they approached last season, and in particular this year, the young guys from Galatasaray. I mean, man, incredible group of guys. Purcell obviously tore his Achilles, but was having a great season. Was having a great season last year. Melo Trimble, who I actually played with in the USA team when we played, and we played in the
Pan American Games, isn't it?
Yeah, the Pan American Games, in Toronto, 2015, I think it was. So they kind of mixed, European veterans with the young guys, and I love the young guys from I can't even think of their names right now, but the guys from Manresa. Man, when I watch, just the energy and the vigor and the attitude and the swagger the guys play with. I mean, the guys from Cluj. And even Ludwigsburg. I mean, those are some of the toughest dudes I've seen. So just this whole wave, and I'm sorry I can't remember all the names, but just the wave of these guys that I've seen, I think this is probably one of the best groups of young American talent. Obviously they're not all first year guys, but I mean, these are all guys within their first few years in their European career. And I mean, it's just, they're really making a name for themselves. So, which also speaks to how well the BCL has done, displaying talent, because I think it's a lot easier now to display your abilities than it was when I first came into the game, all those years ago.
Well, let's jump to the Final Four, because as you said, I mean, this is going to be one of the most competitive Final Fours we've ever had.
Right.
Let's go with MRP Reason Ludwigsburg. They take on Baxi Manresa. Looking at the teams, you watched them play a little bit over the season. Prediction-wise, who do you think is coming out on top of this one?
Prediction-wise, I saw a video not too long ago of the defense that Manresa was playing and how well those guys, they defend. And now, granted, I only saw clips, but I was like, man, these guys are. I mean, they were playing so hard in the clip, I had to go look at their standing in the ACB, and I was like, wow, I was shocked. So, I mean, for those guys to be playing at that level in the best league in the world and to be in the Final Four really says a lot. But Ludwigsburg team has been knocking on the door, for a few years now, and the perfect mix of veteran leadership, and I think Lloyd-Smeath probably had a little bit more taste of the competition in that playoff series that they had with Cluj. So I think for them to come back and pull that out, I can see them using that and using that resolve, in Bilbao. So I'm going to take guys from Germany on this one.
We've had the media day yesterday, when they go through all the videos and the photo sessions, and it's been a lot of fun. But Manresa are the team that's most definitely like the most energetic one. They were having so much fun. They were so loud. They're like, if you don't know them, you'd think they're a bit arrogant. Do you think that kind of style of being loud could bite them back? Because Ludwigsburg are complete opposite on the court. Like, they don't talk, they just pressure you all over again. You think that Manresa's loud style could have like counter effect in the game against Ludwigsburg?
I don't think so. If anything, I think it'll allow them to relax in very tense moments. And like I said, using the comparison of when I first came into Europe to now, like, it says a lot for the coach to be able to allow these guys to be themselves. And I think if a lot of coaches, organizations in Europe take note, and like trying to understand the psychology of young American guys coming over, it's not disrespectful, it's different. There's a difference. And so I think it says a lot to, I think Martinez, if I'm not mistaken, right, the coach, he's given a lot to them to be themselves. So in return, they're giving him a lot on the floor, and the balance in that relationship is great. But like I said, the seriousness, traditional, European attitude and approach is still a good method. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So like, I go more so, like I said, those guys from Germany been knocking on the door for a while. So I still will take them, but I definitely think those guys being relaxed and being themselves in tense moments or moments where there should be some pressure, I think is very helpful.
Okay, let's move now to the next game, because a lot of people have this one set in stone. Lenovo Tenerife, they've been on fire since the round of 16. They're everybody's favorite. Then you've got Hapoel Holon. I mean, they're playing with a lot of swag. Joey Rapson, Adam Smith, Chris Johnson, not to mention Michael Kaiser. Who do you see coming out on top of this one?
That's, it's tough, man. It's like the athleticism and the talent, versus the wisdom and the fundamentals of the game. So, man, I definitely think that Tenerife, it's like they're kind of like, I mean, I'm going to call them a wounded animal. I mean, they're not hurt or anything like that, but I think Tenerife, after winning it the first time, like, man, they've just had so many expectations year after year after year. And so, like, now these guys are kind of like at the Alamo, it's their last stand, like a lot of veterans, and, you're at the end. And so, like, I think that, for them to try to make this stand, I really think they have, like, the attitude and the energy to say, like, man, like we're taking this. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those guys come out and play incredibly hard and incredibly well at a high level. But also, I think it's going to take a lot for them to offset Holon's talent, athleticism, and creativity. I mean, that's going to be difficult. And I think for Holon, it's going to come down to how disciplined they can be. Because you have to be disciplined. Tenerife has shooters everywhere, guys who just know how to play, how to move the ball. And I think the tendency for young guys with athleticism and talent is to rely on that too much at times. And in situations like a final, it's really tough. It's a dice roll. So that being said, Holon is my favorite for the entire Final Four. So I think that I'm gonna go out and say it. So I'm gonna take Holon. I just like the energy. I like what they had. They've been there before. The balance, they match up everywhere, and with situations where anything can happen, I just think they have all the bases covered for however they need to play.
Obviously, you played in Israel, and the atmosphere, especially the Purple Brothers of Cologne. We are in Spain right now, and technically Tenerife are the hosts because they're a Spanish team, but we're expecting around 1,000 Israeli fans.
Of course.
Talk to us about the atmosphere, about playing in front of Israeli fans, because it just seems like the best feeling ever, right?
It is, man. I say, like, as an American player, like, every American player should at least play in Israel 1 year, when they come overseas, because I mean, it's going to be the closest thing you get from lifestyle, from the style of basketball you want to play, and then like the interaction with the fans. And so my time there, I didn't get to spend a lot. I spent 1 season with Maccabi, and then I spent after injury, I came to Rishon a few years back, and I spent a little time there. Man, I mean, you just talk about, total embracing of. I mean, obviously, my experience has taught me that it always goes club, coach, player, in Europe typically. But I mean, like, so when that hierarchy or whatever, like, it kind of goes in Israel, it's a little bit opposite. It goes club and then player. Like, the club, the fans control the club, and then if you play for the club, the fans completely embrace you. Like, from inviting you over to cook for you and bringing you little things and help. I mean, like, seriously, guys have stories of stuff like this. I mean, it was done for me as well. So, I mean, I just think it's a different atmosphere altogether. Now, I mean, they're intense. Don't get me wrong. I mean, just like any other group, but I mean, it's something about from a personal connection level. It's definitely special.
There's one player from Cologne that reminds me of you.
Really?
It's the setbacks. It's just the tenacity to get shots off. Because every time I used to watch Keith Langford play, there was never a situation Keith Langford couldn't get a shot off in.
Okay, right.
Raglan. I mean, when you see this player play, what is so special about him?
Well, one thing, man, it's interesting because Joe. I played against Joe. I was in Milan, and I believe Joe was in Cantu at the time in Italy. And it may have been his first or second year in Europe. I'm not sure. But, I mean, like, that toughness, that tenacity, that little bit of nastiness, like, I recognized that immediately. And then, obviously, when you're a left-handed players stick out to you right away. So, I mean, I saw the talent, in this guy right away. Our games are a little bit different, but like you said, from a step back standpoint, I was like, when I saw the against Strasbourg, when he makes the back-to-back shots, and I was like, okay, so he's been watching my YouTube clips a little bit. So I mean, but no, I'm kidding, but I mean but I definitely, when I saw it, I was like, that's such an important shot for a lefty, because I don't know, it's going right. Everybody sits on that left hand so much that they get into your right. You have to have something that breaks up the monotony. So, I mean, when I saw that, I was like, wow, he's really developed, and it was good to see that.
Well, Keith Langford, I got to say to you, man, you've caught it right. Hapoel Holon, they're your favorite. They're going to raise the championship.
Yeah, they are, man. I like what Goodis brings to the table. I had got Goodis as an assistant coach with David Blatt, and man, his calmness, the way he kind of came in and settled those guys, and he's got Alex. Man, I'm sorry, I can't remember the guy's name. The guy with the beard with the braids that played in Greece.
Adam Smith.
Adam Smith. I'm sorry,
Smith, probably.
Alex. My bad, Adam. But no, I mean, and like the way he settled Adam and the way he's playing, and I mean, it's just, I just really like what Goodis has brought, and the way he's kind of spread those guards out, and Kaiser's playing above the rim. I mean, they just have all the bases covered. They got a coach who's been there, and a coach who will keep, who can do both sides. He knows when to let them go, knows when to, pull the reins in. So and they were there last year. They were there. They had a chip on their shoulder. They were right there, actually. So I like that combination.
So if Cologne are winning and you had to pick the MVP, would you go with somebody like Ragland or somebody like Chris Johnson, maybe because he plays both ways, or maybe Adam Smith, who could go off for 20 plus in the cup? Who's your
Yeah,
MVP
you
for
know,
Cologne are winning?
okay, so I'll say this. I would say, like, obviously, like, this is how old I am. Me and Guy Panini are like, Guy Panini is my guy, man. I love Nini. And he might be a little too old to get the MVP. I'll say I hope he gets it some way, somehow. But anyway, but really, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you literally have 3 to 4 guys on Cologne's team that could come away with the MVP. Just like you said, Chris, Adam, Joe, Tyus McGee. I mean, I really think like either one of those guys can really just start going crazy at any minute. So with 4 potential candidates, I mean, it's just like, how do you not take that team? So, I mean, but if you're gonna nail me to the cross and I have to take one, I would just I like I'm somewhere between Chris and Tyus, but I'll take Tyus, man. I think he's I like the way he plays in big games. He approaches now. I mean, he's the one player I can really see that can like really dominate the game in multiple facets. I mean, he'll make big shots. He'll assist, play make, he'll defend. So I'll go ahead and take him.
Plus one more important factor for Tyrus McGee. He's about to become a father next month.
Oh, wow.
So he's most definitely extremely motivated to welcome the baby with a gigantic trophy in his hand.
Yeah. I mean, you have all of those things, man. You have a guy who, I mean, he's like you said, he got a baby coming. I mean, he's back. He was there last year. He's a guy who probably, deserves a little bit more credit than what he's gotten over the last few years. So, I mean, it's his time, I would say.
So I got one last question, personally.
Sure.
So
of course.
The BCL trophies, maybe one of the ones you don't have yet. Are we going to see you back in the BCL coming after that?
Man, honestly, I mean, a lot of people, don't know. I mean, I was out for 9 months, because of an Achilles injury. So, I missed the opportunity to come and play in the BCL again. And, my mind was, should I retire? Should I just stop? But I didn't want to leave the game that way. And so I would like one more crack. I would like one more crack at it. So, I mean, this last part of the season that I'm doing, it's to see if I can, if I think I'm up to it, to putting in another 10 months. Because I've always said that I walk away when I can't be Keith anymore. So, something in these last couple months, I need to see if I can be myself again. And then I'll say, I mean, okay, I won't be myself of the past, but I need to be some version of myself going to play because, I like to play at the highest level that I can. So, yeah, I would definitely love a crack at it. So, I mean, if me and my agent can make, can drag somebody to the table and slide a piece of paper across, and, we'll figure it out. I'll be back for sure.
Every club in the basketball.
Well, you already know we want to see Keith.
I appreciate you guys, man. That's great. Thanks.
Well, the Final Four is tomorrow. Keith Langford, thank you so much for joining us here on the BCL Trash Talk podcast. We will see you next season in the Basketball Champions League. I'm sure of it. But
all right, awesome. Yeah. So if I come back, let me get the first episode of the podcast next year. Then.
Done deal.
Yeah. Done.
All right. Awesome,
Sold.
All right. Thank you guys, man. Thanks for having me.